Yeah, which is just to reinstate it. What is your interpretation of becoming versus acquiring or trying to go achieve?
The place that it's coming from within yourself. Is it coming from a place of true, genuine desire, or is it coming from a place of inadequacy? Like you can feel the difference. There's like a depth that you can feel in your fucking body.
Yeah.
Compared to like it goes down here in your balls, but when it's up in the head, it like only goes this far. This far. I can literally feel like the depth in which it is. Yeah, there's a big difference.
As
so
far
you
as
go in your body, the more power you can access.
yeah, can you make that real just for a example? Like obviously getting a girl, obviously like the job you want, but is there any specific example where the desire comes from shallow versus deep?
Yeah, but that's where you can run into issues because when you start to get into thinking about shallow versus deep, then we get into trying to define what it is based off our interpretation of what is shallow and what is deep. So we can do specific things that one might perceive as being shallow or not a heart desire, because I think we generally have a perception of what a heart desire is as being something that's pure and holy. So when we get beyond that, though, I recognize that heart desires aren't good or bad. There's no morality associated with heart desires generally. They just are. So I might be connected to my heart, and I might have a desire to go through a season of life as a man where I'm fucking bitches. And that's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, that's just what the chapter you're in.
That's what that season represents for you. And so, but then it's important to stay up to speed with the inspiration as it can easily shift. So when that inspiration shifts then to maybe one of, well, now I'm desiring a little more deep connection and intimacy. It's important to be able to be aware of that within yourself. Yeah. So that's the example. It's not about morality and being good or bad, right and wrong. Inspiration doesn't give a fuck about that. Heart-based inspiration doesn't care about your interpretation of it. That's why sometimes there'll be inspiration that exists inside of me that I'm like, whoa, really? Like, and my programming will get offended by it, right? My interpretation of what is good, right, and wrong will get offended. Like, oh wow, like, me,
there
like
goes.
that.
There goes.
Fuck it. It was like when I did stripping. Like it's just like, really, like that's what it is. But I can tell based off the level of depth that I experience it within myself. It's just like a knowing. I think that's the hardest part for people is getting connected to that place of knowing. So it's hard to be able to be like, oh, this is my inspiration when I'm disconnected from myself entirely.
Yeah, and then how do you know, is that wanting to smash girls chapter of your life, is that coming from the ego or the heart? Like, how do you know? Because pretty much all guys feel that chapter of their life, a prolonged chapter of their life, I would say.
Dudes, the good majority of dudes aren't ever able to really do that, though.
Or at least not with the type of girls that they would want.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I see life as more of a journey and not as trying to get to a destination as fast as possible. And I think there's something to be said about being capable of getting multiple women that you are highly interested in. And then from that place, being able to make an ultimate decision. And going into today's world, as far as how people are going to stay committed in the long term, I think it's really, as a man, fully being able to have ultimate selection, getting yourself to that place, and being able to say, ooh, well, this is what I really want. Okay, so this is what I'm going to have. Whereas if we don't get to that point, we just kind of accept what is accessible to us or what we think is just there, not what we really want. Likelihood of us being able to make it something that's long term isn't very high. Right. Especially in today's world with swiping and Instagram. Like, we have to go deeper within ourselves to be able to really form deep into a bond with somebody, know exactly what we want. And we can't do that if we don't give ourselves permission to go out there and experience.
Yeah. The dating world now is pretty crazy. Like,
it's pretty complex. Nobody knows themselves. It's hard to know ourselves. It's hard to know what we want. Yeah, it's hard. But that's everything, especially now more than ever. Because our parents got married because of survival necessities, right? Or like purely raising children. We don't really have as much of that anymore. Like, we have so much more freedom and capacity as people where we don't have to just get married to raise children. There's so much more to life for us now because there's so many more opportunities.
My man. Okay, let's introduce you really quick. We didn't do that, but we just kind of got straight into it. But I like to do that.
Is this recording right now?
Yeah, it's already recording.
Oh, it is? Okay, I'll make sure.
It's cool because I just start the convo, and then the podcast starts when the convo like takes off. Like, if there's 10 minutes of us chatting, getting into a flow, perfect. You know, but if it kicks off right off the bat, then we're good. But yeah, bro, I've like learned a lot about you just through watching your Instagram lately. And I'm always like, I told you when I met you in the gym, like, yo, dude, keep going. Like the feminist, there was like a feminazi, I called it, in the comment section, or someone you were talking to on a panel you were on. And you were just explaining like the masculine edge. And then I saw a post on your Instagram of you like in Thailand, like fighting some dude Muay Thai, and like blood's coming off your face. And I'm like, whoa, this guy is different. And then I met you in the elevator, and you're like so like warm and like inviting. Hey man, how you doing? Yeah, that's cool, man. I live here. I'm just like, I don't know. You almost came off like a hippie dude, but then I see you like fighting on the gram, and then I see you in the gym killing it, and then I see you speaking on these panels, like defending like what you believe to be a masculine man. And I'm like, yo, this dude, I admire this dude. Like, this guy's a beast.
Thank you, bro. It's about the range, man. I really try to make a very conscious effort of expanding my range of what I'm capable of as a person. Jordan Peterson always talks about being able to kill a man in one moment and hold a baby in another. You know, having that capacity, I think it's very, very important to have that range of ability.
For sure. I don't know if you can hold a baby, but I know you can kill a man because I watched the
the
video.
Baby, man, for sure. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like a whole lot of other people's kids, but my own family, blood, children. I get soft for babies.
Dope. Right on, bro. How old are you, by the way?
30. Just
30.
30.
Let's go. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. It feels good to be here. I'm stoked to have this conversation.
How about like 30? How do you feel about 30?
Oh, it feels incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a long time coming. I feel like my 20s, there was just so much shit that I did. Like, it was unreal. Like,
stripper. You had the NFL. What else? You went to different countries.
Yeah, I traveled the world, dated around the world. I mean, met people from all over. Did a few different things. I did holistic health for people, deep nutritional issues. People had issues with mental, emotional. Like, I've worked in the full range spectrum of health overall, the physical body, but also the mind and the heart. Mm-hmm. So.
And then today on your IG story, you said best job in the world, and it was someone giving you like a testimonial about how you impacted them more than anybody they could think of in recent time. Mm-hmm. And so you found your way to this path. What would you say you do for a living?
I give people what they want, plain and simple. I connect people to their heart, because oftentimes when people come to me, they think they want something. But I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah. I don't really know. I don't really know if that's really what you want or not until we get in. But I'll tell them that, okay, so if that's what you want, then we'll make it happen. But normally we get a little bit through it and we realize that sometimes the thing they think they want isn't actually what they want. But also, there's people that are very connected to themselves that they do know truly what they want, separate from what an insecurity might think that they should want or who they think they should be. So it just depends on the level of self-awareness that the people have when they get to me. That will determine what exactly it is that we go get for them.
So how do you know how much self-awareness a person has in a coaching session? How long does that take? What's that timeline? And like, can you sense it quick, or do you ask certain questions?
Yeah, it's very apparent in regard to how comfortable they are with talking about themselves. And not just on a surface level, but more about the deep parts of themselves that they've taken time to feel into and understand. Some people, I'll ask a question and they'll be so disgruntled by it. They're just like, and you can feel the discomfort that comes from them. But there's other people that are like, oh yeah, I have this and I have that and I've experienced this and that. And oftentimes some of the people that are the most open and self-aware are the least successful from an earthly standpoint because they don't know what to do with their self-awareness. They tend to be a little more introverted people that are very aware of themselves and their problems and their deficiencies. They don't know how to move beyond that, whereas there's other people that are primarily operating from the surface ego playing the game of life, where they've mastered a lot of the external game, but haven't really mastered the internal game. Oof. So most people come from one end of the spectrum or the other, very introspective, very understanding of themselves, which can be debilitating, or they're from the place of mastering the game of the external game of money and success and haven't mastered the internal game.
Do you find that at some point, I know you work with high performers, right?
Correct.
Do you find that at some point they limit themselves? There's a ceiling that can only be solved through facing the opposite end of the spectrum and becoming...
Yes, absolutely. I love the way that you said that. Even for myself, I've gone through seasons of that where I'm from South Dakota. There's not a lot of people, males, unless you're gay, that are doing underwear modeling, right? So I never got to explore that element of life. We're very manly men in South Dakota where we don't really talk about our emotions and we just show up every day and work hard. And there was an element of life that I wanted to experience, that other end of the spectrum, that I felt I wasn't able to adequately to be able to become a more well-rounded version of myself. So I did underwear modeling in Colombia. I was on a couple storefronts. It's funny, I got pictures of it, me in a storefront, like with these small underwear on.
So your 20s were eventful.
Oh, very eventful, right? So, but the cool part about that was I'm a very, very deep person. And so by allowing myself to explore greater levels of the more surface element of life, which I would say underwear modeling falls underneath that category, it actually allowed me to go deeper within myself. So sometimes our capacity to go deeper comes from our ability to go higher, or vice versa. So my depth that I can go within myself, my introversion, can be limited based off my ability to feed the outside or the extroversion part of myself. I don't know if that makes sense. But basically, if you come from one side or the other, exploring the other elements can make you more skilled at the thing you're naturally better at by exploring the other one.
So give me an example for like someone you worked with that you took them through to break that limit where they might have made their first few 100,000 or million, but they come to you and say, yo, there's something empty going on. I don't know what the hell it is because all I do is focus on my business my whole life. But I heard you're the guy. Help me out. And then within a few months, you work with them. They give you these crazy testimonials. What exactly takes place? What do you, like, give me an example if you have one off the top of your head.
I mean, I just connect them to the heart, man. I connect them to their heart. I mean, I have a guy who's making upper 5 figures a month, but was having a ton of relationship issues. That's normally the biggest issue with a lot of guys that have a lot of external successes. Their relationships tend to be shit.
Yeah, so mine are non-existent, so maybe we'll get to that. But okay,
right, and I'm not just saying the intimate relationship, but also like friendships and familiar relationships. So they tend to be very rocky and shaky. So a lot of the work that we do is being able to go deeper into establishing a stronger connection, a relationship they have with themselves, like forming a level of intimacy they have with themselves because they're so used to operating at a surface level and accumulation of external wealth that they don't have any intimacy with themselves. When I say intimacy, it's being able to ask themselves questions to be able to understand themselves more and just talking through things. Because oftentimes the guys in those positions, they're the ones that everybody else is going to, right? They're in a very successful position, so people admire them and look to them. And so they're never the ones that are in a vulnerable position. They're always having to be the ones to solve problems and figure things out for everyone else. So naturally, they don't really have the ability to solve some of their deeper problems because they're so busy trying to solve everybody else's. So we can go in there and poke around a bit and allow them to get closer, more intimate with themselves. Allows them to be able to be more present with themselves, which allows them to be more present with others so they can adequately ask the questions and exchange energy and love in a way that really allows them to connect deeper with people.
Where did you get this skill? Would you say I know that you faced like that pain of your first ego being broken, of like, I don't know if it's your first, but the NFL, that dream shattered. And then you realize, like, you know what, I'm actually kind of happy it shattered because I secretly wasn't really fulfilled the whole time. Is that right? I heard you say that.
Yeah, but in regard to like my ability to understand this stuff and like the intimacy element of things, I've always had a pretty easy way of deeply, intimately connecting with people, even when I was a football player.
I felt it in the elevator, dude. And I was like, what's up with this guy's vibe?
Yeah, it's like people,
Who's
tons
this guy?
of people have issues being able to intimately connect, but to me, intimacy is like one of the easiest things to be able to form with people.
So, okay, got it.
Yeah, 'cause I think a lot of it comes from being able to, I feel like I've gone so deep within myself as far as understanding myself that I have such a high capacity to be able to emotionally immerse myself in another person. Not losing myself in that person, but just being so present because I've taken time to really resolve and understand myself. I think that's what allows me to fully be in space.
So you're saying that it wasn't a gift you had from birth. It was something that you
I think it was
consciously
a gift.
worked on?
It was a gift, but then it was a let's say a sword that I had to learn how to wield. So it was a sword that I was given that's like
the most powerful sword, let's say, in the world, but I had, through experience, had to learn how to be able to wield it.
Mm.
Yeah. But given it, I would say I had it at birth. My mom would say that too. Yeah. She said she remembered. She was looking at me in the eyes when I was just born. She was like, there's something with this kid that is super unique. And she didn't know exactly what it was, but she knew.
So that would be the gift that we're referring to now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Your superpower.
Yeah, I'd say my superpower is the ability to be able to connect people to their hearts and be able to gain earthly success through the pursuit of the desires of their heart, which oftentimes isn't always an easy task. Now you see the broke person that is committing to their passion, but I think that's limiting. I think that's there's other things there that haven't been resolved. So I think we can get the best of both worlds. I think it's possible to be able to pursue the desires of our heart and also achieve all the success that we want doing it. I think that's our God-given birthright. But there's a way of doing it. We have to learn how to do it. And most people have no fucking clue how.
Bro, you made me think of this quote that all jobs are not really a person's purpose, like a veterinarian or not that it's not their purpose, but that like our real true calling in life is to heal ourselves, help others to do the same in some form.
Well, and I don't even look at it like that. I just look at it as my sole purpose is to stay connected to the seasonal inspiration that I'm driven towards.
So it's
right?
way
So
more.
It might be a veterinarian in a season. Might be like, hey, for these 5 years, and it's not knowing in that moment, but let's say it's been 5 years and you're really feeling driven and drawn to being a veterinarian, then there's always going to be a time normally when your soul's like, hey, I want something else. And then it's up to you in that moment to be able to leave behind that identity that oftentimes we can get very comfortable with and go after whatever else that next thing is. So I'm not even married. For the last 3 years, I haven't been married to the idea of having to continue to do the work that I'm doing. I'm always open to doing something different. I might leave it and not do it ever again. I don't feel obligated to in any way, shape, or form. Wow. I never do. I think that's what makes my work so powerful is that I feel no obligation to follow the gift that I have. I could go off the face of the earth and not ever do it. Now, do I want to do that? No. But if I did want to do that, I would. And so I'm open to that. When I get huge and massive, everybody knows who I am, I'm open to the idea of just disappearing. I just think that sounds really fun for an extended period of time. But the thing is I'm always staying up to speed with where my inspiration is. So it's not about attaching to one purpose that we have. I think that's very overrated. And I don't even think that's correct either, because I think we should always be evolving. We should always be changing when we go after different things. We have different life experiences. So it's not about finding your purpose. It's about staying connected to your seasonal inspiration. If you can do that, then that's basically the same thing as living in purpose, not for a purpose. There's a difference.
How many of these seasonal inspirations does one have? Like, there's obviously not a limit.
Yeah.
How often do they change? Could you like give any context?
Man, everybody's different. Everyone's different. I think some people are more complex than others, and so they're naturally desire for shifts and changes more frequently than others. Some people might be in something and feel very passionate about it their whole life. That's also a possibility. So we're all created very uniquely and very different, and that's why the work that I do, I don't do courses. I just connect people to themselves, and me connecting to themselves isn't the same as me. I'm very different from everybody else, just as everybody else is very different from me.
Yeah.
So it's more about staying connected to that place. And that's the hard part, though, is oftentimes we look to other people for validation and permission to be able to go on and do different things, but those people aren't living your life. You're living your own. That's one of the most courageous things that we can do is live the life that we feel most aligned to, right? That's one of the hardest things, though, because sometimes it feels like you're out, feels like I'm out in the middle of an island by myself, paving my own path, but that's what makes it all worth it, I think, is being in the tension associated with going after something that everybody else isn't and building that internal fortitude through that.
So it's not necessarily fate, like amor fati is the quote, the Stoic quote, but even like the purpose, I always say it's like layers of an onion that you peel back one at a time, and at your very core is when you find like your true core purpose that you were like destined, the person you were destined to be, the impact you were destined to make, and that until you peel back all the layers, year by year, you know, purpose by purpose. The first one for me was like getting out of my hometown, solving like my financial problems. Then maybe I need to do like a fitness journey. Okay, so each of those represent a layer. And then finally, now I can have the awareness of self to know what that is. To me, it sounds, even that one sounds more like fate. It sounds like the core purpose was designed for me, and I'm supposed to like decide it somehow and be aware of it. Whereas what I'm hearing from you, how I'm interpreting it, is that like fuck the core purpose.
There is no core. It's just layers. That'll forever be layers. I think it's dangerous actually to feel like we get to a core purpose, because then we get disconnected from the inspirations, the seasonal inspirations that change. That inevitably will always change. I think it's dangerous just to be attached to a core of purpose. I think you've been living in purpose since the moment you decide to leave home. So it's not about, like I said, not living for a purpose, but living in purpose. When I'm living in purpose, I'm staying up to speed with the inspirations as they continue to shift and change. And you might feel very passionate about what you're doing right now. And I think it's important to be open to it not always being that. Right? There's a lightness associated with that. But I think we can generally, as humans, find mental stability through having some kind of perceived understanding of something that is concrete, right? Whether that's religion or whether that's like a purpose. We can find a lot of mental stability in doing that. And that's okay if it keeps us feeling sturdy and stable. But I think the courageous thing is continually staying open and willing to new inspiration from God, separate from what our human brain thinks is the thing.
Yeah, because we find a lot more, when you say courageous, it's because I feel like the world gives us a ton of validation if we pick one of those things and create the identity of I am this. Because then others can pat us in the back and validate us for saying like, yeah, I am too. I support that. Yeah, stay there because I'll always support you. So then it's really tough, like you said, to do the courageous thing of leaving that identity behind for the new source inspiration that you keep mentioning. We put ourselves in like this box, like.
But that's human nature. Like, it's generally human nature to seek safety through mentally creating stability in something being and operating in perpetuity. Like, naturally, that is what we do.
But not you, though, because you seem to be
I'm aware of
drawn to the opposite.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we spoke about, like the volatile life of like you're more open than most to that style of life.
That's true, but I also always still notice, like, I'm aware of my natural human tendency to want to settle in something. And I think based on people's upbringings will determine the things that they have a more natural way of settling into. Sometimes people will be a relationship. Sometimes it'll be their job, depending on their upbringing.
Yeah.
But I think we all have our ways of settling in some way or another. And I think it's important to become aware of what those things are for you to protect yourself and your long-term joy.
This makes me think about the depression talk.
Let's talk about it.
So to me, just off of what I'm currently hearing from you, it sounds like the only time a human being could be depressed, as the modern world labels this like sickness, illness, is more of being out of tune of their seasonal inspiration, not abiding to like what they feel called to do. What would you say to that? Like, would you push back to that? Would you have more explanation there, or is it that simple? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the primary component to it. But I also think it's important to preface with the fact that we're not created to live in the time that we do. Like, our minds are not created to live in this day and age. Technology has accelerated our lives in a way that our brains haven't been able to keep up with. So understanding that, naturally we're going to have a higher capacity for depression and anxiety because we're not created for the technological times that we live in. So I think that's important to understand.
Just off the rip, we're going to be more depressed than we've ever been, just off of technology alone.
Yeah, because we're not created to live in this day and age. We're not created to have a thing that we have all the time at our fingertips. Like, technology is advancing so quickly that our brains aren't keeping up with it.
So it's not like it's getting better. It's actually on a downward spiral, if anything.
I would say so, yeah.
Because next they got the VR headsets coming out for like 7-year-olds to wear.
Well, and that's where the things that are coming out, the advancements in technology are more so things that we can use to put off deeper levels of disconnection within ourselves. So it's more like sedating us rather than actually getting to the core of the issues that we're having. It's like just creating more ease when in reality the issues we're experiencing are coming from a place of being disconnected from ourselves. It's like, here's another lollipop, child. Here's another lollipop, and the lollipops get more and more strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
They get more and more intense to be able to satisfy greater levels of tolerance that people get to the lollipop that they had before. That's what I would say technology is for the most part.
Like,
so we have to remove ourselves from the technology for a second, be able to step away from it, and reconnect with ourselves. And that's a little bit more complex than I'm making it, but that's what's happening with technology. It's greater levels of sedation. Right, with the VR, it's like, well, how can I get further and further away from actually taking accountability for the shit in my life? Well, let me just create a virtual reality so I don't have to do any of the hard things that you would normally have to do as humans to create some level of real satisfaction, because that's where satisfaction comes from, fulfillment comes from, is the process that we commit to go after something and become something. But we can't experience real fulfillment if there's no process. The fulfillment comes from the process. So that's where I talk about we're just stepping into more sedation. We're not stepping into more real joy or happiness. It's just greater levels of disconnection.
So if you got a guy who's maybe average level of success or even like high achiever compared to those that he grew up around, his peers, etc., but he comes to you as like a shell of himself, yo, bro, I feel empty, something's off, and he's kind of putting himself in that depressed box. Like, what do you do mentally? Because you see them as healed because you're healed, but they don't have that awareness yet. Like, what's that process like to get them out of that situation? Obviously, it's not like you do say medicine, though. I was going to say it's not really like you can just heal them. But then again, you told me that your coaching, if I remember, is like medicine. You said, I give them medicine.
Yeah, we give prescriptions, yeah.
Yeah.
For the amount of time and energy that they'll need for me to be able to navigate the space of the issue they have.
Okay.
There's obviously levels to it as well.
Yeah. Well, let's just say this guy had a breakup. What's the causes? I'm trying to think of give us like a character to help right now who's watching the video. But like, okay, he had a breakup. He has been in the same career. Doesn't really have confidence to like do the thing he really wants to do. So he stays in this career that everybody accepts and appreciates or validates him for.
Yeah, I think
he's not fulfilled.
Yeah, I think that's generally like okay, but you have to know what you want, and you have to know when it's time to leave what you're doing to go after what you want. I don't think everybody should just stop what they're doing immediately and go do something else. I think sometimes there's, like everything, there's steps to things.
Yeah.
And there's stepping stones as well. And sometimes you got to eat shit. Right? Like, you got to start at the bottom of the totem pole and develop yourself.
Real talk.
But it's with the intention of knowing that it's not to stay in that place.
Yeah.
So you can be there, but have the mental understanding that this is a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people, they'll get caught up in the moment of the experience and won't recognize it as a stepping stone and get comfortable and fall into a pattern of complacency rather than understanding that it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
So if you can move beyond where you're at and really think about what you want, you can see how your current situation can potentially serve what you want. Like maybe it's a decent paying job and you're able to save some money. You're able to save enough to be able to then go off and live somewhere else and start some kind of other business. So you're there with the intention of having the capacity later on to be able to do more of what you really want.
But what if this guy, he's been told that he has an illness? Like, I was going to look at the quotes, like the depression thing. He's been told that, and he doesn't believe that there are all these like other reasons for why he feels this way. He thinks that it was like a deck of cards almost that he's been gifted in life, given in life.
Well, he's an idiot. He's been lied to. Well, he's not an idiot. He's been lied to. Yeah, but it can feel more comfortable to believe that. Depression is like a spectrum that we can experience of mental discomfort associated with how disconnected we are from ourselves.
That was a bar.
So your level of depression or perceived mental discombobulation or like chaos in your mind is a spectrum normally based on how disconnected you are from yourself. So you can expect to experience a certain level of depression and anxiety when you're disconnected from yourself. It's not only normal, but it should be expected if you're living disconnected. It should be expected.
Damn.
And that's how when I know I'm experiencing some anxiety or I start to notice myself feeling not good, there's always something that I'm doing or not doing that's contributing to that. And the wild part is the more connected that you get with yourself, the more connected you become, the more little things not being done can throw off your psyche. Whereas if you're living very disconnected, then you're almost numb to some of the more minor things that you might be doing that aren't connected to yourself. Because there's such big things that you are not doing. Whereas like you're not taking care of your body, you're living a job you're miserable at.
Yeah.
You're living with someone like a spouse that you hate.
Yeah.
Right? Those are like bigger things. But when you're not doing those things and you're living generally in alignment with yourself, then it's like small little things. It's like, oh fuck, I didn't like reach out to this person. I noticed.
Yeah. Didn't keep my word in this small area.
Yeah, there it is. And then the things become more finite and complex. But that, I mean, it's fun to me. It's fun to be like, oh shit, like, what am I not doing? Oh, I thought about that 3 weeks ago. I thought about it again 10 days ago. I thought about it again 3 days ago, and I never reached out to that person.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Huh.
So it's becomes more about than keeping up to speed with those small little, then I say micro inspirations that exist.
Yeah.
That it's very important to be able to be aware of. And those are more of like smaller things that can be done without a lot of preparation or time, but more so just need to be done. So sometimes that's reaching out to your bank if you have some overdraft fees, right? Or collecting money from someone that owes you money. You don't want to talk to them because you're afraid to ruffle some feathers, right? Some of those micro things that are actually very important in the grand scheme of things. And doing those things can actually help you become more confident to be able to then pursue some of those bigger things. So maybe by addressing some of those micro inspirations, you might have the capacity then one day to be able to leave that shit relationship that you don't like, or to be in that, to leave that job that you hate. So sometimes being able to tap into those micro inspirations of like, what am I not doing right now that actually doesn't take a lot of effort? I'm just avoiding.
Got it.
And doing those things can create this level of confidence within yourself to then conquer bigger and bigger things.
I'm going to play, they call it devil's advocate, right?
Please.
I truly know that this is true because for me to leave barbering, I had to do a massive like fitness journey to realize like, oh fuck, I'm just gonna retire from barbering and be a coach. Like, but before that, I had to do like 6 months of like massive dieting, gym, early wake times, all that to get the confidence, all the small things to that big decision. But still, let's just play devil's advocate and say for the person who is depressed, who has fully accepted the identity of a depressed person, and they hear you saying this and they're offended by your lack of empathy, right?
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Your life sucks. Mine doesn't. Like, if you want to keep thinking that way, if that mental model that you're operating under right now is something you want to keep doing, I don't care. I feel good. You don't.
No, but you should care. And
Why?
You should be empathetic that there are people on this earth who are
not my problem.
But I thought you were this person who has this good morals and ethics. You put out your messages and stuff, and now here you are saying you don't care that I'm depressed.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you realize that I was born with this illness? You should have empathy and care. You should feel for me. Right?
Why? Why should I?
I think you're an asshole is what I think. Because you're blaming me. You're saying that it's my fault.
You're right.
Right? You're
Absolutely.
saying that it's my fault. I'm depressed and it's my fault. You don't realize, have you ever been depressed?
I've experienced deep levels of, I would say, depression.
Yeah, right. Look at you. It's easy for you to say.
Yeah.
Look at my life. My life is depressed, okay? I am depressed. You don't know nothing. What have you experienced? Tell me about it. Let's hear it. What was your depression?
Oh man, well, mine was, there's a couple different times when I thought my football career was going to be done forever.
Oh, it's so hard. I'm an NFL player.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all spectrum, right? You're probably one of those people that would also say, you know, you're with the rich and famous people that have issues. Like, oh, who are you to have issues?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody always
That's what I
has
was getting
issues,
at. Yeah.
right? regardless of what level of life you're at, it's perceived the same way. Just because you have an idea of what you think the money or success will bring you doesn't mean that those people don't have issues as well. And those are generally the people that I work with. And so people like that, I mean, I can't do anything. I don't really care to. So.
Wow.
I feel no responsibility for people that choose to operate in that state. Now, if they come to me and they want to have a conversation, man, I will do it with open arms. If they're willing and open to receiving from me in some way, great. But if you want to argue with me,
they just want to be right. I was enacting the person who just wants to be right. Yeah. And like to sit and sulk and like my life's been hard and I feel invisible.
Like you have no choice but to take accountability. It is your fault. Yeah, you have to. The only way to come out of it is by owning it. But it can be easier to not. So it's either do you want to come out of it or do you not? And if you don't want to and you don't want to take responsibility and accountability for your life and what you're experiencing, well then you're fucked. And if you're choosing to live in that state, then you're not very smart.
See, so that's where the argument would be like, my doctor is smart and he told me I'm depressed. No. He gave me
doctors don't
clonazepam and whatever Pam and I don't even know the drugs' names.
They're just part of the system. You know, we don't have to go down that route. I think we know that there's a system that relies on the dependency of people on the system.
So you're telling me that my doctor isn't necessarily looking out for my best interest, or he hasn't been trained to help me become aware of my situation and work through it in a tangible way, but he'd rather just treat it and keep me here.
Mask it, yeah, for sure. Now, I don't think that the majority of doctors in the medical system have ill intent. I think most have big hearts and have strong desires to do what is best. But if we don't know better, they can't do better. So if they're part of the system and their livelihood depends on them making a check every month, at the end of the day, most people are going to, even if they might know deep down that it's not really right, they're still going to show up and do it because they got to pay the bills. They got to be able to put food on the table for their family. So that's where no matter who you are, you can't depend on any system. You can't depend on your employer. You can't depend on your doctors.
All right, I'm going to keep playing this game. So now I say, well, whatever, Keyen, big, muscular, successful guy who has no... You're like flexing on him. Like, that's right, bitch. Look at that bicep vein.
That shit.
And he's like, all right, good, easy for you to say, well, I've been told that I'm depressed, and if you don't support that...
You're not, man. You're not. Let's fucking figure it out.
No,
I'll show you how you're not. I can show you how you're out of alignment in your life.
Ooh.
I can help you be able to not be out of alignment.
You still think it's an alignment issue? They told me I need therapy from a woman. I'm going to go get a woman therapist because she's going to help me to sort through my feelings and why I feel this way.
You need a man. You need a man to be able to help you work through some of the issues you're experiencing.
Let's say, how old is this kid? Because I feel like young men, the common time to get depressed is like, when does life chin check a young man? Like,
I think right when he gets maybe out of high school. Because they're still under...
Yeah.
Like if you have a decent household, like you have some relative level of support.
It's like 19-ish. Like when he realizes that no one's coming to save him, he has to become great. And like the weight of that could be depressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And should never be handled alone as a man. Where like, I do not believe that we're inherently created to operate fully on our own. I think there are some individuals that have greater capacities to be able to operate on our own, but overall, we need people. We as men need other men that we can form and have intimacy with in a very deep emotional way to be able to continue to grow and be the best versions of ourselves. I have a lot of men that I have deep, intimate bonds with emotionally. Right, some people get the wrong idea.
Deep, intimate bonds.
But mantimacy is a real thing, man. Mantimacy is a real fucking thing. And it's important. And dudes that are disconnected from themselves and just like macho guys that have no real connection with any other men, they're suffering. They're suffering. And dudes that don't know how to form intimacy with other dudes in a beneficial way where we can grow and expand together and crush it and make things happen, they're miserable. So being able to know this and understand this and be able and willing to see men around you and use those men to your advantage in regard to helping you be able to figure things out is very, very important.
Well, now this kid's shocked because you didn't really give him any empathy. You led with compression of like, I don't give a fuck that you think you're labeling yourself as this disease. But if you're ready to talk, I'll walk you through it. Then you gave him some compassion, but he still felt misunderstood. He still wanted you to come down to his level, and you wouldn't do it. You challenged it.
Absolutely.
So then he hit you with the, well, I'm going to go talk to my therapist.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep taking my whatever pills they subscribe to me.
Keep doing it, and then when you realize it doesn't work, you can come talk to me.
How much time passes by now?
Doesn't matter to me. I'm not staying up at night.
Oh shit! You just keep reminding the kid like, dude, you can stay down there.
He's wondering what is this? He's like, what is this thing? But here's a cool part about human nature. When I say what is this thing, I'm wondering like, who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
And he's actually finding safety within that experience that I'm having with him through me being anchored in what I know to be true. So I'm actually creating a level of safety for him that everybody that's falling into his empathetic, like being overly empathetic to him and what he's going through, never can. So I'm now the person that creates some kind of mental stability for him to be able to rely on.
Like, oh, well, there is this one guy who, every time I brought it up, he always was so confident.
Dude, he was just here. Yeah, he was just here. And so he now will know in the back of his mind, the heart knows truth. It always does. It always does. And so that he can feel safe around me. He might actually talk the most shit to me out of anybody else, not because he actually disagrees with me, but because he feels so safe with me to do that. It's actually an act of love that he's doing by expressing that to me because he feels so safe with me. He wouldn't yell and scream at me if he didn't think I could help him. So it's my responsibility to stay right here in that interaction so I can continue to create safety for him.
Wow.
Because if I don't, and I jump on his frequency, I go down to him.
You guys are both sinking.
Correct. I no longer create safety.
So someone who's not a seasoned coach or isn't in tune with their gift of helping people out of a sinking boat,
they'll go down with them. Happens all the time. This is why a lot of very intuitive, good-hearted coaches feel exhausted all the time because they're going down, 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 down when they should be staying up, up, up.
Wow.
That's why I can do like 6 calls in a day and just be rocking and rolling. From not going down, down, down. Because it feels way better being up here.
Yeah.
I don't have tolerance to go down there. So you're going to either come up here or you're going to stay down there and I'm going to be up here. But
it feels good to do this.
Oh, yeah, it does, bro. Like,
because you got these big muscles. You think you're all like, that's right. Check them out.
Yeah, it's all frequency. Like, come to me.
Yeah.
Come to me. It feels better up here.
Yeah.
You're going to feel better up here too. So why the fuck would I go down there?
Right.
This feels good up here. Come to me.
I won't go down there.
No, I don't need, no. And you should come up here. Here's a rope. Come on, just grab it. Grab it. Grab it. Come on. You know you, no. No, I mean, we all know that with a girl, right? It's like, girls like having a little bit of an emotional response and you're just like, okay. A little bit of a fit.
You have to sit in it with her.
It's like, you sure? Okay. And she's like, okay, fine.
She needed that.
It's like, just grab the rope. Come on, don't be silly.
She needed you to stay. What book is that I read? The Way of the Superior Man, I think. Remain playful. Yeah,
which can be definitely difficult. I think a lot of different men talk about that, but that's where we have to know ourselves deeper in our own triggers as men to be able to allow ourselves to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I think practically every man knows that it's not right to get angry at a woman and to explode on her. But when we have deeper unresolved emotional things within us, we can't control that. Can't control it. That's the power of knowing ourselves. So we can become naturally more stoic, not through trying to impose that way of being onto ourselves, but because we've resolved the things that were preventing us from being stoic in the first place.
Fire. And even with being a coach, right? With the client who wants you to come down to where they're at, to be empathetic with them. And you're like flexing on them like, nah, bro.
Shut the fuck up. If people watch my coaching calls, I'd be like, this guy's fucking crazy. But it's not about the words, it's about the spout that the words are flowing from. And so because the spout that my words are flowing from is one of a lot of power and capacity, people look past the things that are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Because they can feel
The heart knows no
something
language.
other.
The heart.
Correct. Woo! There it is. It's got the chills. That's it right there. It doesn't matter what I say because the place that it's coming from is from the heart. That's why I say that we talked about in the beginning, where I said, when we start to get in our heads about inspiration being good or bad, right and wrong, moral or not moral, then we can get in the way of being able to stay aligned with the inspiration. Right? So it's not about the things, it's about the source that those things are coming from. Right?
So let's say he waited a whole year. For whatever reason, he just was not ready to let Keyen guide him through and face the mirror. He still wanted to blame the world and be a victim of these depressed cards he was dealt. But he always remembered that you said you would still be there, ready, with open arms. So a year later, a new life traumatic event happens, and he's on his last lifeboat. And he's like, damn, dude, obviously that guy must have had something right about what he said because I'm still feeling this way. And he reaches out to you, sends you a DM on the gram, and it's like heartfelt. And he asks you like for it to start coaching. So like the next day, you guys hop on a call, boom. And he's telling you like, bro, everything that we talked about, you know, I'm ready to start working through it. And you're the only guy I know. Like, who better than you? Boom. And you take the honor of coaching him. What's next? Like, he's finally willing now, basically. He's rose up to your level, but he needs help or else he's going to come back down.
All it is him spending time with me. In that space, we meet an hour and a half a week, and we talk about whatever comes up, but most of it's all frequency. It's literally all frequency, man. Like, the longer a lower vibration's in a higher vibration, naturally, it's going to rise to it. And so it's more about the space and the presence that I create with them rather than all the words and the content. That's all just fun mental masturbation. Right? But most of it's all frequency based. So they pay me for access to my frequency. That's really what it is at the end of the day, if we want to get very technical. They think they come to get what they want, but they really want access to the frequency. They want access to the feel good.
Right.
And the capacity to get what they want, not through effort, but through alignment within themselves.
And maybe a more tangible...
Yeah, I'm being really esoteric.
No, but I mean, it's true, but even a more tangible application to the frequency, it also, like you said, the spout earlier, comes from at least it's coming from someone who not only is vibing high, you know, but the person actually does want to see them win, you know, and even the transaction of them paying you, they know now that you are almost not obligated to see them through it, but there's some type of like intention that they're setting and that you're setting.
Yes.
So it's more than just like hanging out. Like, you could be at like a gym and you're working out on the station next to me. Technically, I'm like accessing your frequency if I like quick chat with you, but over a coaching call, what's that dynamic? How does that change it to be more, like I said, tangible?
Intentional.
Yeah.
As far as what we're doing in there, I wish I could tell you. It's all so individualized to each person. It's so understanding themselves and their current season. I think that's one of the hardest parts is people understanding who they are and what the season right now represents for them. And be able to help them get very clear on what that is so they can have confidence and certainty in the things that they're doing, because that's one of the most important elements of doing anything. You were saying it earlier with, if you don't know how to set something up on some of the podcast stuff, just pretend like you do until you figure it out. Right? And so being able to get really clear about what's the seasonal inspiration, what's going on right now, helps with creating more confidence in themselves, but then understanding what the potential next season entails, which also builds more confidence in what they're doing right now. So most of it is getting them very connected to the right path, their path right now. What should they be doing right now that's most aligned to them? And how should they be doing it? And doing those things every single week. And learning how to then become more aligned and get on their path without me. So I teach them how to connect to themselves in a way where they can get very present with what their current inspiration is, and then eventually get to a point where they can now do that within themselves. They're aware of it.
So you first expose them to what life is like when you're aligned to your heart, to the seasonal inspiration, gain awareness on what season of inspiration they are in, which maybe the first step was just taking that accountability to even sign up with you and say, like, I need help.
Yes. Huge. Absolutely.
And then once you've now raised their awareness of the season they're in, the experience of being surrounded by someone who is in a high vibrational state, you then introduce them to a life or a lifestyle that will keep them in that aligned, in tune with the season.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Life.
So they can get more in alignment with their environment rather than trying to fight it. It's like sitting back and listening and noticing and receiving.
Because if not, they would have to sign up with you every time the season changed and they felt out of alignment again. So your goal is to, if I'm hearing you right, to teach them how to always know when the season changes and move with the season.
Yeah, and everybody's different in their capacity to be able to do that. Everybody's different.
Holy shit.
So sometimes there's people that come back in multiple seasons, and then they get to a point where like, okay, I know how to do it. Other people get it right away. Other people takes a little longer. It all depends on their process that they're going through. It determines how frequently they'll have to come back. But the cool part is that every time they do come back, it's less and less from a place of survival and more from a place of, ooh, I'm just excited to plow through this next ceiling, and I don't know what it is right now. So when they come, most of the time it's more deep psychological survival-based things where they're experiencing like anxiety or depression or can't figure something out, and it's really fucking with them. But then it's the issues that they come back with are more lighter, or a little more fun and explorative rather than necessary for okayness.
Dope. Well, bro, you have a dope style of coaching. Like you told me that you go to war with your clients. You'll tell them that.
Oh yeah, every time. So you got to be willing to go to war with me. I'm going to talk mad shit to you, and you got to be able to talk mad shit back to me. It's not because I want to be right or you want to be right, but because we have to get the truth. That's all I care about.
Fire. You're so grounded in that frequency, you know?
I've seen it. Well, I've seen the evidence associated with it over and over again. So it's hard not to be. I see what the result of it is. And the more result that I see of it, the more grounded I become in the belief of it.
Wow. So like you said, it's not that you're trying to be right. It's just...
That's it. I'm just stacking evidence.
Yep.
I don't care about being right. I care about following the evidence and being able to follow suit with that. I'm always open to being wrong. If you show me evidence that takes me elsewhere, great.
Dope.
I literally have clients that come at me hard about something after I talk some shit to them, and I'm like, okay.
Not that you're coming down, but that you are...
Yeah.
How would you...
And sometimes I just have to say okay and be able to truly feel okay, and for them to feel heard, for them to be able to move beyond that too. So it's being able to be in the space and express powerfully without getting lost emotionally. It's a complex thing, very complex thing. Maybe we can talk about it at a later time.
Yeah.
That's like
dope.
Next level shit. Yeah.
Let's
where I
pause.
can express. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's pause real quick.
Cool.
All right. My guy. That's fire.
Good shit, dude.
Just a quick pause because I want to make sure that when it's already 55.